All right, let's just jump right in. Have you ever had this happen? You set this huge, exciting goal, and then just a few weeks later, it completely fizzles out. Yeah, if that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone. But here's a thought. What if the problem isn't you? What if it's not about willpower at all, but about how you see time itself? We're going to dig into a simple mindset shift that, honestly, can change everything. You know the feeling. I'll start my diet on Monday. I'm joining the gym on the first of the month. Or, of course, the classic, new year, new me. We're always waiting for these perfect, clean slates to get started, thinking that some special date on the calendar holds this, I don't know, magical power. But more often than not, that very way of thinking is exactly what's holding us back. So, this way of thinking actually has a name. It's called the landmark mindset. And it feels so logical and organized on the surface, but it's actually a pretty subtle psychological trap that can set us up for failure before we even get going. So, what does that really mean? Well, the landmark mindset is our habit of pinning our biggest goals to these symbolic dates. We stop seeing time as this continuous flow, and instead, we start chopping it up into separate blocks. You've got January in one box, February in another. And this just forces our goals into this super rigid all or nothing container. And I'm willing to bet this cycle looks pretty familiar, right? January 1st hits. You're all in. You're at the gym, you're eating clean. But then, mid-February rolls around. Maybe you get sick or work gets crazy, and it just throws you off your game. And because that start date felt so important, so rigid, you feel like a total failure. So you just stop. And then what? You end up waiting almost an entire year for the next big start date to try all over again. It's just this incredibly frustrating loop. So let's really break down why this approach is so flawed. First off, it absolutely creates an all-or-nothing mentality. If you mess up on a Wednesday, the whole week feels shot, and you tell yourself, oh, I'll just start fresh next Monday. This puts a ton of psychological pressure on that one start date to be perfect, which, let's be honest, is completely unrealistic. A tiny slip-up suddenly feels like a total catastrophe instead of just a little bump on a very, very long road. Okay, so if the landmark mindset is the problem, what's the solution? Well, there's a really powerful alternative, and it's called the continuous mindset. This is where we stop thinking in these isolated chunks of time and start thinking in one single continuous flow. I want you to imagine time not as a series of separate little ponds, but as one long flowing river. And guess what? You're already on it. There's no perfect spot to jump in. The continuous mindset is all about seeing your journey as this one single uninterrupted flow. Progress isn't measured by how well you did on a specific day. It's measured by the total distance you travel over months and even years. And this comparison here really just lays it all out. With that old landmark mindset, your focus is always on the milestones, on the dates. Success is measured as this all-or-nothing game, which just leads to this endless cycle of high pressure and then feeling guilty. It is a really stressful way to live. But now, look at the incredible shift with the continuous mindset. The focus moves away from that single date and onto your daily process, your system. The measurement is no longer about winning or losing today. It's about all the small, cumulative gains you rack up over time. And this just completely changes the whole psychology, from this high-stakes pressure cooker to a much calmer, much more sustainable focus on patience and, most importantly, consistency. So, what does this actually look like in the real world, in practice? How does embracing this idea of flow unlock real results that actually last? It is all about the power of accumulation. It starts with just one small action today. That one action, when you repeat it, becomes a consistent weekly effort. Then, over a month, that consistency starts to build real, tangible momentum. And over a year? Whoa, that's where you see true transformation. It's never one single heroic day that changes your life. It's always the sum of 1,000 small, ordinary, consistent efforts. The benefits here are just huge. I mean, when you start measuring progress over the long haul, a single bad day becomes, well, almost meaningless. You ate a piece of cake when you're on a diet? Who cares? It's one meal out of hundreds. This just dramatically reduces the sting of those little setbacks, which in turn makes it so much easier to stay consistent. And maybe best of all, it massively lowers the stress and anxiety we always seem to tie to our biggest, most important goals. Okay, let's pull all of this together. If you're going to take just one thing away from this whole explainer, what should it be? How can you start using this, right now? Here's the bottom line. The big takeaway. Stop waiting for Monday. Seriously, stop pinning all your hopes and dreams on January 1st. The real magic happens when you shift your focus away from those single high-pressure dates and onto the uninterrupted flow of your journey. See, the goal isn't to be perfect on one special day. The goal is to be pretty good consistently across all the days. And I just want to leave you with this one last thought to chew on. We put so much weight on the landmarks, right? The start dates, the finish lines. But what if the real work, the real growth, your greatest progress, actually lies in all those quiet, messy, ordinary moments in between? Just think about it. What could you achieve if today was just as important as next Monday?